Next is Senor. And the stage for the spokesperson of the building. Honorary representative.
My presentation will be part of the AP presentation. I just have to be clear.
Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. For the armed forces of the Philippines, for our chief of staff. Today I'll be presenting the situation update on the rotational reposition mission at Ayungin Shoal from 04 to 06 March of 2020. So this is the statement of the AFP. From the words of our Chief of Staff, General Romeo S. Brown Jr., the armed forces of the Philippines strongly condemns the China Coast Guards and the Chinese maritime militia's latest excessive and unlawful actions against Philippine vessels, conducting our routine rotation and disciplination of troops in BRP Sierra Madre at Ayungin Shoal on March 5. We call on the China Coast Guard to act with prudence and be responsible in their actions to prevent miscalculations and accidents that will endanger our people's lives. The AFP needs to sustain our military forces deployed in the West Philippine Sea and maintaining the Philippine presence in our exclusive economic zone. We'd like to give you the details in terms of the evaluation. For our primary vessels, we have Ayungin 1, Ayungin 4, and for our supporting vessels, we have the BRP Gregorio del Pilar, PS16, BRP Ramon Alcaraz, PS16, BRP Sindangan, MRRB 4407, and BRP Cabra, MRRB 4409. In terms of the Chinese monitor vessels, we have from the POE Navy 3 vessels with our number 648, 172, and 590 respectively. From the Chinese Coast Guard, we have monitors 5, 5201, 3305, 21555, 21556, and 21551. And for the Chinese maritime militia or the Chinese fishing vessels, we have monitor 18. We'd like to take note that the commander of Westcom was actually on board during the revolution. For in terms of the significant events and the incidents during the revolution at LS-57 in Ayungin Shoal from the period 4 to 6 March 2024. On 04 March 2024 on Monday, at 04:10, the US-1 and US-4 departed from the station. And on 05 March of 2024, Tuesday, at 0326, there were several radio challenges from the Chinese Coast Guard that occurred. On 0505, the response of from our end, from DRP Cabra, was to China Coast Guard. This is ESG vessel DRP Cabra 4409, conducting routine maritime patrol within Philippine exclusive economic zone. We are proceeding to our grand route. Stay clear to our passage in accordance to commercial regulations. And at 5:48, same day, the UN-4 was blocked by 4 CCGs and 3 Chinese cruising vessels. On 05 March, still at 8:15, Chinese Coast Guard 5201, Chinese Coast Guard 21551. They performed water cannon on 0M4 and 4 personnel from our end include minor injuries. At 8:23, the UN-1 successfully crossed the enemy entrance. And at 8:40, MRRV 407 provided medical assistance to the injured personnel as stated. At 8:42, the UN-1 safely arrived and moved at starboard side of LS-57. At 9:36 as well, UN-4 and DRP Sindaman, MRRV 4407, in convoy, departed towards Puerto Princesa City in Palawan. At 10:56, UN-1 departed LS-57 and rode back to Palawan. These are photos of the scene in the area. Actual photos during the blocking and the dangerous maneuver executed by multiple Chinese vessels, including 2 Chinese Coast Guards, DM 21551 and DM 3305 towards DM4. So now, how we have encircled our vessel. This is another photo. The actual photos during the blocking and dangerous maneuver executed by multiple Chinese vessels, including 2 CCGs, PM 21551 and PM 3305 towards Singapore. So as you can see, the maneuver is circling our vessel. This is also the actual photo of the water cannon incident. The actual photos of 2 Chinese Coast Guard DN 5201 and DN 21551, which doused their water cannon near collision against UN-4. This is another photo of an I-74 in the middle and a Philippine Coast Guard vessel at the right. As they are being blocked, the Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels during its location and relocation mission to DRP Sierra Madre LS-57 at the Ayungin Shoal on March 5. This is the actual photo of 2 Chinese Coast Guards DN 5201 and DN 21551. Who doused their water cannon on military against UN-4. So makita po natin mas sobrang lapit na po ito. So you can just imagine how much pressure was really given to our vessels. A Chinese Coast Guard vessel deployed at around 8:15 AM and its water cannon on the Ayungin-4 during its location and repositioning mission to the Sierra Madre. This is a video which shows our personnel who were on board around the Ayungin-4, when the Chinese Coast Guard vessel deployed its water cannon at around 8:15 AM during the rotation and positioning. So dito po natin makikita how our windshield goes with the pressure of the water cannon. So makita niyo po, pumasok po yung water and it's also damaged CCTV cameras inside our vessel. This is the photo that shows the extent of the damage. So this is the broken glass is shown across the Chinese Coast Guard vessels water cannon towards Ayungin-4. during the said mission. Again, the photos show that it's not just Ayungin Shoal that is damaged, there are also certain damages that will be caused by the vessel. The sustained damage to the airport due to the water pressure exerted by the water channel, CCG 1551 and CCG 5201. So dalawa po yun na sabay po water channel sa ating. This is a video that shows personnel on board 974 when a Chinese coastal vessel departed water cannon at around 2:50 p.m. So ito po makikita niyo po how much pressure was being incurred by our vessel. So ito very close range na po ito. And this is another video that shows how two Chinese coastal vessels simultaneously sprayed water cannon to a 9-1 shore at around 8:15 a.m. So ito po, dalawa na po ito mga convenience. Kita mo po, 9-1 yung video, almost blocked by the water from both ends. So that's about it for the updates in terms of the article. Thanks.
Next will be the presentation of the spokesperson from the Philippine Coast Guard, Mr. Oliver J. Santayan.
Magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. I would like to apologize dahil nasira po ang kuryente namin. Sabi namin yung panahon, ngayon pa talaga. Kaya po mainit tayo ngayon. Nag-volunteer pa naman ako na ako ang mag-host ng ating press conference. And ganito ako naging katapos-tapos. Again, I would like to thank our media friends for attending this press conference. To proceed with my presentation, I'd like to highlight the fact that the role of the Philippine Coast Guard in this supply mission is only to support the operation of the armed forces of the Philippines. The role and mission is a mission for the armed forces of the Philippines. In short, it's a military operation. Our role is only to support those supply boats that they're using to conduct the supply operation. On the part of the Philippine Coast Guard, we deployed two Coast Guard vessels, 44-meter BRP Simbangan, MRP 4407, BRP Cabra, MRP 4409, and then there's supply boats that they are tasked to escort, Eliza Main 1 and Eliza Main 4. Just at least to give you an idea of the operational area of this supply operation. The Philippine Coast Guard vessels came from Bulinian Port. That's Point C. That's the southernmost part of Palau. And then the supply boats, it came from Ulugan Bay. So the concept of operation is that the Philippine Coast Guard vessel in Eliza Bay will rendezvous at Point B, which is Sabina Shoal. From Sabina Shoal, the total distance of around 40 nautical miles, we're going to sail, going west to Ayungin Shoal. The Philippine Coast Guard vessels departed last March 4, 12:40 p.m., hoping that the following day we can be able to have to rendezvous the Eliza Bay in Sabina Shoal. On our way going to Sabina Shoal, the Philippine Coast Guard vessel was able to monitor the presence of a PLA Navy helicopter with the tail number 36. It is important for us to note that this helicopter are also those helicopters that we see in Bajo Masinloc whenever we patrol that area. So we know for a fact that this is a PLA Navy helicopter. The Philippine Coast Guard vessels and the supply boats arrived at Ayungin Shoal around 2 a.m. And then slowly we went to sail moving towards Ayungin Shoal. As early as 3 a.m., unfortunately we don't have photos and images to show you, but as early as 3 a.m., the Chinese Coast Guard vessels started shadowing the entire supply confusion. And by 5:55, is the only photo that we have during that time, wherein the Chinese Coast Guard vessel 21551 and the Chinese maritime militia supported each other to prevent Onaiza May 4 from advancing, moving towards Ayungin Shoal. At 5:40 in the morning, we also monitored another Chinese Coast Guard vessels, China Coast Guard vessel 3305 and 2155. They are shadowing MRB 4409 from a certain distance. Sorry. At 6:05 in the morning, at a distance of 13 nautical miles east of Ayungin Shoal, China Coast Guard vessel 3305 blocked MRB 4409 at a distance of only 100 yards. So basically, just like the way that how they have been doing in the past, they're going to block our pathway. They're going to stop all their engines and appear that they're just staying there so that there's a possibility that for the Philippine Coast Guard to line towards their vessel. And right after this, a few hours after this, we'll be having a collision with another Chinese Coast Guard vessel. At 6:05 in the morning, three Chinese maritime militia vessels and Chinese Coast Guard vessel 21556 blocked and shadowed Onaiza May 1. You can see how many Chinese maritime militias are being deployed for them to prevent the Philippine government in advancing, moving towards Ayungin Shoal. This is another video showing Chinese maritime militia vessel blocking MRB 4409. And also disregarding bulwarks because this vessel did not consider the fact that she's actually closing the bow of MRB 4409. At 6:19 in the morning, Chinese Coast Guard vessel conducted close maneuver towards MRB 4409 at a distance of only less than 50 yards. You can just imagine how big this Coast Guard vessel is, and doing such maneuver can actually endanger the safety of the MRB 4409. Just to support the images that were shown a while ago by Ma'am Vanilla, that the Onaiza May were also shadowed by Chinese maritime militia and the Chinese Coast Guard vessel. It goes to show that it's not just the Philippine Coast Guard that they are blocking, but even the supply boats to prevent us from carrying out a successful supply operation. At 6:32 in the morning, that's what we have been warning the Chinese Coast Guard for so many months already, that they need to abide the provisions of the collision regulation. If not, there is a high possibility that collision incident might happen. And in this particular incident, because we have always ensured the seamanship skills of our commanding officer in deploying our vessels in Palawan, particularly in carrying out the supply operations, that he has prevented the impact of collision towards the Chinese Coast Guard 21555. Here's another video taken from the vessel. You can see the Philippine Coast Guard personnel are really doing so much effort to prevent the collision towards the vessel. And the Chinese Coast Guard personnel are just standing there and taking video. So it means perhaps that it was deliberate on their part. They don't really care whether there will be a collision. But for the Philippine government, they are preventing such collision from happening. Around 7 in the morning, MRV 4409 was already separated from Naisami. You know, for every Coast Guard vessel, our concept of operation is that one Coast Guard will escort one to Naisami. And based on our experience for the past so many months already, the concept of operation for the Chinese Coast Guard is for them to separate the Philippine Coast Guard vessel from the supply. In this particular photo, you can see how they can how they corral MRV 4409 for them to separate it from Naisami 1. It is worth mentioning that in this time, 750, the Chinese Coast Guard vessel was also successful in separating Naisami 4 from the escort vessel of Naisami. The escort vessel of Naisami is MRV 4407. You can see from this photo that the Chinese maritime forces have been become successful in separating it, deploying as many as 2 Chinese Coast Guard vessels and 4 Chinese maritime militia for them to separate these 2 boats. As a result of that, Naisami, when due to her seamanship skills as well, she was able to get out of the situation of being trapped by these Chinese Coast Guard vessels. So from there, she managed to get out of being trapped and decided to sail on her way proceeding to Ayungin Shoal. This video is very important for us to know because right after she was separated from Naisami, that's the time that she was already completely separated by this Chinese maritime militia, even doing dangerous maneuver to move farther to Naisami from the Philippine Coast Guard vessel. And right after this, the escort vessel of Naisami, MRV 4407, is still wanting to get out of being corralled and trapped by this Chinese Coast Guard vessel. But it was very difficult for MRV 4407. That's why they were separated. Since they were separated, the Philippine Coast Guard is no longer there to ensure the security and safety of Naisami 4. That's why she has to be subject to water handling of these 2 Chinese Coast Guard vessels. Because most of the time, our media friends would always ask, if the Philippine Coast Guard vessel has the duty to escort the Onaisa Bay. Where is the Philippine Coast Guard vessel during this time? That's why I showed the 3 previous slides to show that the MRV 4407 was completely corralled, and she's no longer have the ability to maneuver to support Onaisa Bay. And the water cannoning of 21551 and other Chinese Coast Guard did not stop until 8:50. And besides from the water cannoning, Chinese Coast Guard also did dangerous maneuver that almost had a collision with this Onaisa Bay. As a result of the water cannoning, which was already narrated by the AFP spokesperson, the Philippine Coast Guard vessels MRV 4407 received a radio call from Onaisa Bay 4 that 4 of the crew have been injured. That's why the Philippine Coast Guard launched a rigid hauling capable boat to provide medical assistance to those injured personnel. Around 7:52 in the morning, Onaisa Bay 1 was the only successful supply boat that entered the lagoon to connect all 5 units. It is also worth mentioning that despite of the damage that Onaisa Bay has sustained because of the water cannoning and the near collision, and they know for a fact that the Onaisa Bay have also injured personnel on board, the Chinese Coast Guard still never hesitated to launch their own rigid hauling capable boat or their patrol boat coming from 21551 and circle around Onaisa Bay 4, trying to document as if we are the ones doing illegal activities in our own exclusive economic zone. Around 9:56 in the morning, Onaisa Bay 4 has decided to abort the mission proceeding by Ayungin Shoal, but to proceed back to Ayungin Bay, and it was escorted by DRTC now. At 12:50 in the afternoon, Onaisa Bay 1 already exited Ayungin Shoal, and as you can see from the photo, she was still being shadowed by Chinese maritime militia vessels. At 7:30 in the morning of 6, I think that's most. But these are the Chinese Coast Guard vessels that actively blocked, conducted dangerous maneuver and dangerous tactics as we carry out these resupply operations in Ayungin. Chinese Coast Guard vessel 5305, 5201, and the 2150 series 21551, 21555, and 21556. These are also the notorious and active Chinese maritime militia that actively supported the blocking and dangerous maneuver of the Chinese Coast Guard vessels. On the part of the Philippine Coast Guard, we monitored PLA Navy vessel 530, PLA Navy vessel 164, and the PLA Navy helicopter with tail number 36. All in all, the Chinese maritime militia vessels that we physically monitored, there were 12 of them, and 6 were monitored via AIS, and 5 Chinese Coast Guard vessels, and 3 People's Liberation Army Navy, and the PCG head. That ends my briefing, and maraming salamat.
Thank you, Colonel Cariello. Next, we have the ambassador. There is the Lanza, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everyone. This afternoon. Yesterday, another incident again occurred within the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines, more particularly in Ayungin Shoal. Chinese actions resulted in a collision between a Philippine Coast Guard ship and a Chinese Coast Guard ship. The irresponsible use of water cannons damaged a Philippine supply vessel and caused minor injuries among some of the Philippine crew that was doing a routine rotation and resupply mission to the RP Sierra Madre. The Philippine Embassy in Beijing has enlarged their counterparts in the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs yesterday. The department also launched another diplomatic protest against the Chinese side by summoning the Chinese embassy also yesterday afternoon. Ayungin Shoal is part of Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone and continental shelf. The Philippines has sovereign rights and jurisdiction over it. As a low tide elevation, Ayungin Shoal can neither be the subject of sovereignty claim nor is it capable of appropriation under international law. The Philippines' resupply missions to the RP Sierra Madre are part of routine operations in line with domestic and international law. This lawful activity is well within the exercise of Philippine rights within our EEZ. We have not added anything to our normal or routine foreign missions. Our conduct over our EEZ remains the same. The Philippines has made sincere efforts to implement leaders' instructions to lessen tensions and have our foreign ministers and foreign ministries hold discussions. China, however, has made references to supposed agreements or arrangements out of these discussions. The Philippines has not entered into any agreement. I repeat, the Philippines has not entered into any agreement abandoning its sovereign rights and jurisdiction over its EEZ and continental shelf, including in the vicinity of the Ayungin Shoal. China's unlawful exercise of maritime law enforcement powers in preference with Philippine rotation and resupply missions, or any other activity that infringes upon Philippine sovereign rights and jurisdiction in the Ayungin Shoal are violations of international law, particularly the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. We continue to call on China to cease and desist promptly undertaking actions that violate Philippine sovereignty, sovereign rights and jurisdiction in the West Philippine Sea, and undermine the mutual trust and confidence that should underpin bilateral relations. We thank the international community for their continued expression of support to the Philippines and the defense of the international order based on international law. The Department of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of the Philippines remains committed to pursue its standard of protecting and upholding the Philippine legal maritime entitlements in the West Philippine Sea. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Madam. That closes all the presentation from our resource persons. At this moment, we will be opening the floor for questions from our dear friends. Once again, I would like to remind everyone that there will be only one question per media agency. We have here from our business.
Good afternoon, Ambassador. The State Department spokesperson made a statement overnight that the Philippines and the US are talking and discussing what he described as provocative actions outside. What were discussed, and the discussions include invoking the legal defense treaty because the statement of the past statements of the State Department has been quite clear that Article 4 of the NTP includes an act that extends to the Coast Guard will activate such provision.
On the first question, I do not have at this moment the readout of what was discussed, but suffice it to say, there's continuing and ongoing discussion and consultation between the US and the Philippines on a number of areas of cooperation, including defense cooperation. So, in terms of specifics, specifically outlined in our packet at this moment. In terms of the second question, in terms of the NDT, I refer to our NDC representative to respond.
The invocation of the Mutual Defense Treaty is subject to consultations between the Philippines and the United States. And given that it is subject to high-level consultations, we cannot, the National Task Force as Philippines, cannot make any comment as of this time.
That's the scope of the consultation, and is there, or what are the ways forward that you are looking at in terms of more concrete support perhaps on the part of the U.S. based on the incident that happened in the U.S. Philippines?
Now I'll get back to you on your question as soon as I get more information.
Up next, we have from the FPOs.
In reference to the statement by the State Department mentioned by my colleague, it refers to 4 injured service personnel. I wanted to know, and the military spokeswoman referred to these 4 injured people as personnel from our side. I wanted to know from which service are they relating it?
Yes, our operations there, the rotation and supply is in military operations, as said. We are conducting routine morale welfare activities. So our troops are stationed in Ayungin Shoal, so we have to give them permissions. And thus, our personnel will be part of the crew of the vessels that were involved.
Meaning our military, Philippine military.
Yes, Philippines. As to the composition of the cruiser, we cannot divulge the for operational.
One follow-up question.
As a follow-up to that, since we have had this supply missions, we've had that forever, like forever. We're not publicizing them before, because we had emergency. Could you tell us how many service personnel have become casualties of this Chinese?
It's the first time that we have minor injuries that were reported during these missions. But as I said, we cannot divulge how many are in composition of everything.
There was a laser attack.
Yes, but there was no intending, like, if these ones are minor injuries, the ones were temporary blindness.
When we say 6 injuries, since then.
It depends on the answer. It wasn't too clear as this was the lasting impact on this.
I think the statement here comes from the
Yes, I want to just comment that was the spokesperson of the Philippine Navy in terms of issues regarding the West Philippines.
Yes, your question was on the 4 reported injury, or the minor injuries. So far, these are the only casualties or injuries that are incurred in all our missions in the Western Sea for the Philippine Navy. And I really was read that afterwards. Both the reason for the incident was on the coastal ship. I believe this after temporary blindness.
Next, we have NGA News. Again, sir, 1 question and 1 follow-up question.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Sir, based on the discussions, we know that while all of these very aggressive maneuvers by the Chinese were ongoing, sir, ginawa tayo yung ship na standby sa tabi. Anong threshold? Kailan sila makikialam? Kailan sila sasabihin ngayon ang mga kapwa Pilipino na hindi in the future? So, is there a protocol in place? Because people might be asking, I'm doing a block, but they don't want to do it. Sir.
Yes, there are protocols in place, we follow the rules of engagement. This governs the actions of the Navy and the armed forces, depending on the situation as they escalate. The commander of Western Command was deployed in 1984. He was there to supervise all of this as a tactical action. It could have strategic implications. So when the stakes are high, our senior commanders have a hands-on approach to naval and military operations. We had the call when to bring in the gray ship and the navy ships.
At that point, we might answer.
Yes, because they didn't come in, so I surmise that it was his call as being the commander on the ground.
Sorry. Sorry, sir, we have to move on to the next item.
Move on.
We have from 18.
Ayun.
For Ambassador Das. On last February 17, the representatives of China in the Philippines met in Shanghai and forged an understanding or agreement to lower tensions and some call it to de-escalate. In light of what happened yesterday, is this understanding or agreement still on the table? And if it's still on the table, what's the rationale for holding on to a policy or agreement that continues to result in, damages to Philippine ships and injuries to Filipino crew members?
I would like to repeat, relative to both the Shanghai and others, and as you also mentioned that there are agreements, the Philippines is not entered into any agreement that will abandon our sovereign rights and jurisdiction over EEZ and continental shelf, including Ayungin Shoal. There's also no temporary special arrangement existing between the Philippines and China with regard to Ayungin Shoal. So this narrative keeps on repeated that we made promises and we broken promises, we get declarations, and that we are not following the agreements. So saying clearly that we have not entered into any agreement that will abandon our sovereign rights and jurisdiction. But what they may be mentioning though is after the Shanghai, during the Shanghai meeting of January 17, clearly the two parties agreed that we have to only deal with incidents in the South China Sea, and that we have to go through this with diplomacy. Second, that also that there should be efforts on both parts, from both sides, to reduce tensions in the area. And that we believe that continuous dialogue is important to keep peace and stability at the sea. And if you note in a press statement that was released after, we mentioned that we were looking into upgrading the communication mechanism between the two sides. So if on the just 3 scores alone, I don't think the Philippines has actually been remiss in continuing to pursue diplomacy and dialogue, and in terms of taking all efforts necessary to reduce tension in the South China Sea. So in terms of your latter question, I think it becomes more important, at least from our perspective, to continue to talk and dialogue with them, and to see where we can meet and actually have common grounds. But the President has always been very clear, relative to our territory, we will not actually relinquish or abandon our territory. Not one inch is actually immediately quoted. So this is something that we are pursuing, but at the same time, we will not also stop in terms of continuous dialogue, because what other options should be available from the parties' perspective?
Commodore Trinidad, Admiral Carlos, a senior Navy official, was in UN forum, and that was hit, and then it was damaged, and there were 4 injuries. Can you tell us why is it necessary for a senior Navy official to deal in that ship? And how did that, what happened affect the mindset of the military? And additionally, for the first time now, we're hearing that Philippine Navy ships were in the area and PLA Navy ships were also there. What's the implication of this to possible, miscalculations when great ships are present in one area of adversarial situation?
Allow me first to state that May 1, 2, 3, and 4 are Navy contracted ships. In running the operation, the supply, we have a command and control team on the bridge of May. The bridge is center of one activity when the ship is underway. The commander of rescue command was on the bridge of May 4. He was there when the windshield was shattered. He did not incur any injury. He was there to ensure that this tactical action will not spiral out of control, and it may have strategic implications. I mentioned earlier that when the stakes are high, it is a naval and a military practice for our commanders to lead from the front. Not only are you increasing the morale of the men, but you would like to be assured that in case of any untoward incident, it will not spiral out of control.
Just to add, let me just add Jill to our answer to this question. Both sides have mentioned that they want to de-escalate tensions. Unfortunately, we were also surprised on what happened there in Ayungin Shoal yesterday, because we thought that we were turning the page already. So our call really is for the Chinese government to match their words with actions. Because they say they want to meet us halfway, they say they want a win-win solution, they say they want to steer a new course for Philippine and Chinese bilateral relations and resolve this matter of maritime issues in a peaceful manner. But we need to see these words translated into actions on the ground. But this, of course, will not stop the Philippines from continuing engaging with China. As the President has said repeatedly, even in the face of aggression and provocation, we'll have to engage and continue to talk to the PRC. So we are not closing our doors. Our desire is to keep engaging with them, but with China desires some improvement or progress in resolving this maritime dispute in a peaceful and orderly manner. We demand that they match their words with their actions.
Sir, definitely. So we are already on our second year of implementing the Assertive Transparency Initiative, which we see has garnered the support of and the validation from the international community. But is this strategy, our transparency initiative strategy, enough when we put it against the more physical and aggressive tactics by China as seen in the recent mission?
Well, Bianca, first of all, we don't call it assertive transparency. It's what with Agent Himalayas keep on mentioning. We don't have to be very assertive for us to be transparent. What we're doing is that we just have a measured transparency. Now, if your question is, are we effective in attaining our objectives with the transparency strategy that we did launch since last year? I think for us to respond to that question, we have to look at what are the objectives of the transparency strategy. I've been mentioning this a lot of times. The first one is for us to create awareness in the Philippines. Right now, with the current survey result, they were saying that more than 70% now supports the approach of the Philippine government in USDPC. Second objective of the transparency strategy is to rally support from the international community. We can look for the fact that more countries now are engaging more countries, criticizing, condemning provocative actions of China, and also expressing their commitment to support the modernization of the armed forces of the Philippines,
deepening the defense cooperation that we have. So, if we're going to measure how effective we are now, I think we have already gained the objectives, achieved the objectives and accomplish it well. But if we're going to ask how the transparency strategy affect the behavior of China, I think that is not for us to answer. Definitely, nobody can really say that whatever strategy you're going to carry out, whether diplomatic, whether you talk to them or whatever, we will can be here and choose to abide with international law and ensure the status quo and maintain the global order that we are enjoying.
Also, the
Sometimes the issue is a complex and challenging issue, and there's no one fix. You have a strategy, but there's not. It has to be a collection of efforts to address it across different fronts, whether it be in terms of diplomacy, public diplomacy, law enforcement, regulation. There has to be a collective effort on the part of the country. One point. The second point that I'd like to stress is sometimes it's not that sometimes it's not just an issue that concerns the Philippines. It is also an issue that concerns our neighbors and the entire world. When it comes to rules-based international, the legal and rules-based international order to act, the expose and oppose this use, and to go back all countries to the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea, as well as the 2016 Article 5 Award, that actually is a legal and binding award, that actually also, I've already said, that China's mine has no legal basis. China claims the entire South China Sea, including parts of the high seas as Chinese waters. This actually overturns centuries of development of international law culminating in 1982 UNCLOS, the universal and unified character to which countries are actually accepted by the international community. So we, on our part, should actually seek the support of like-minded countries, countries that believe that the rules-based international law is something that we all should apply, and that not one country should actually determine what law would apply in a particular region, and not one country's interpretation of that law should apply to all, and to those countries in the region. So I think we should also widen our perspective. Yes, it concerns us, but we should also say that it does not just concern the Philippines. It concerns other countries because it's already a question of whether we're observing the rules-based international law.
Next, we have the PPP4. So, for my question, the AFP can answer. Regarding the post-USS Mobile LCS-26, do they have any role on the recent war mission, specifically the USS Navy ship last Monday near the vicinity of Ayungin Shoal?
We have to take into consideration that this happened in the Philippines right now, EEZ. So they are actually, these are open waters. So they are exercising their right towards freedom of navigation. So their presence there could mean that they were there for any reason that be necessary to them.
Next, we have from IDC News.
Good afternoon, officials. Earl Torres, ITC News 13. Yung sa akin lang po, kailan I covered former Justice of Supreme Court, Antonio Carter. Nasabi niya na ang China nga daw ay nagkakaroon ng PR war where they try to win the West Philippine Sea without firing a single bullet by misinformation and disinformation. And evidently po sa under the published in the Foreign Ministry's spokesperson site ng China, they call Philippines as the one who was defined or border by treaties. And sinabi nyo po nila on their word the Philippines arbitrarily went beyond its territorial scope to set up the so-called Calayan Island Group, which is validated China's territorial sovereignty. This is illegal, null, and void. Ano po reaction natin sa pilit nilang pagsasabing, null, and void ng ating 2016 hearing na nalagay tayo sa sarili territory?
China has a lot of narratives. We really have to be very careful because if we mount it and we give them the platform to actually present their narratives, more people will believe in it. And that's the reason why the government is earnest in trying to present its position. And that's the reason why the National Task Force has actually come and trying to present the perspective relative to what happens in the South China Sea. I'll give you one narrative. They keep on debunking the award, the arbitral award. But they say that if the arbitral award is supposed to, because their claim is based on historic rights, they keep on saying that they own the waters because of historic rights. But the award is already debunked. That the claim based on historic rights is both illegal and void. They then say because they did not participate and because of that, then there's no basis in terms of the award. But clearly, they were given the opportunity, and the arbitral award also made mention that they in any dispute, for example, Annex 2 provides that if one part of the dispute does not appear before the arbitral award appears in the defendant's case, the other party is required to continue the proceedings and make its award, which is what the Philippines did. The absence of a party or failure of a party to defend its case shall not constitute a part of the proceeding, which is exactly what happened. Before they award, the arbitral tribunal became satisfied that it had jurisdiction over the dispute and that the claim is well founded in fact and whole. And then they say that, of course, they own the entire area, that the fishing activities by Chinese fishing boats and waters, what they're doing in terms of regulation and enforcement are legitimate and lawful and beyond control. But we're saying that would be legitimate if they were in the EEZ, but they're not in the EEZ. They're a big distance away from the EEZ. There are in our EEZ, and because of that, it is us who will determine what we will do in our EEZ. So there are many narratives that come out, and it's important for all of us in the Philippines, from government to the private sector and to the media, to actually question the narratives that are being posted on us in ways and actually be treated in the hope that it will garner support.
One follow-up question, sir.
Following that up po, in the words of former Justice Cartier, relevance na ako sa disinformation na ginagamit ng China against us. Sinabi nila, the only choice we have the support of the world because we have the arbitral award. If we can convince our allies to lobby for us, specifically you, and China should be condemned from statement namin po natin.
We are working very hard. We are working very hard to seek the support of the international community. Kanina it was asked, is the transparency policy just our single strategy in resolving this problem? No, it's not. Because the transparency policy is just one aspect of what we do. And we thank the international community, particularly the countries that have spoken in favor of the Philippines. But there are other countries that we also need to talk to and seek their support. And that is precisely what the government is doing right now. With the transparency policy, we are showing to the world before what's happening in the West Philippine Sea, and we are showing to the entire world that China does not respect international law, and its non-respect to international law is poses a problem for all nations in the world, because international law is the great equalizer. So yes, in answer to your question, as mentioned by Justice Carter, it's important for the Philippines to keep on engaging other nations so we can get more nations to support us in our fight for the West Philippines.
giving you the President Marcos' reaction to this latest global incident because we haven't heard from him since yesterday, but they were more important topic in talking to the Australian broadcaster that the state in the South China Sea could give him an outright conflict saying that I quote, the potential for outright conflict is much higher now than it was before.
The National Security Advisor is with the President right now in Australia, and since he's there, he has regularly updated the President of everything that's happening in the West Philippines. There is media together with the President in Melbourne, and I think they would have an opportunity to ask the President directly on what his reaction is to this incident. We cannot speak for the President, but I think the media will have that opportunity, especially those who are part of the Malacan Press Stories in Australia, to ask that President directly to him. But let me assure everyone that the President has been apprised by the NSA personally on what is happening and what has happened in the West Philippines.
Next, we have an inquiry Martin.
Dr. This question is addressed to Ambassador Rafa and APG Malaya. We understand that the NPT is philosophical consultation. May we ask if the possible invitation of the NPT is talking discussed between Manila and Washington after this incident?
I may just refer to my previous statement on the matter. The invocation of the Mutual Defense Treaty is a serious matter that requires consultations between both parties. And given that this is something that is discussed on higher levels, we cannot comment at this time.
Sorry, sir. Sorry to but can you say that it is not yet clear because of previous incidents? He said that the NPT could not be both here. But what's different this time?
Yeah, I can refer to my previous answer. This is a very sensitive matter, and I think this matter is better addressed by higher authorities. Suffice it to say that consultations are being conducted between the Philippines and the United States over this issue.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have from Fellow News.
While the 98 was in this and was like it, how do you analyze the reason why
We have from Howard University.
The Philippine Navy, Naval Forces West and Western Command, and for that matter, the entire armed forces, the military operations, they always have alternate plans. The Advisory 1 and the Advisory 4 were both there to repetition of the troops. Either one of them that would have accomplished the mission would already be mission accomplishment for us. In this case, it was Advisory 1 that was able to reach LP57. So we can say that the revolution in the Asian troops was a successful mission. As to any analysis, where gets to this one's mind, why they were not get the local level.
I would like to add to the response of Liberty that the further question is why Eliza A1 was not water cannon and Eliza A4 was the only one that was water cannon. Is that the question? So on our part, for the Philippine Coast Guard, since we were tasked to escort the Eliza the only main reason is that it's a random thing. Philippine Coast Guard, the Eliza was not really selective. We believe that it's not clearly pinpointed by the Chinese that we're going to water cannon to go to 974, and next time we're going to allow 971. With the dangerous maneuver that they're doing, and dangerous blocking of the Coast Guard vessels in their supply routes. It just so happened that for this particular operation, it was only Ulan's and Day that were able to outmaneuver the Chinese Coast Guard and the Chinese Maritime Division. And it is unfortunate that Ulan's and Day became a target for the Chinese Coast Guard for the Water Canada attack.
Do you think
Sorry,
that,
sir. We are going to one follow-up question on this, sir. Okay, sir.
do you think that Chinese side knew that the Western commander was involved in that?
I could not speculate on whether they knew. He was on board, hence the water cannon attack organized on April. I could not speculate.
Again, I would like to amplify my response to your second question, that it is not clearly pinpointed which vessel that they're going to Water Canada. It is just a result of the dangerous maneuver and outmaneuvering of the Mexicans.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have from PG Press. At the back. Here.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Joanna Bayan from GT Press. My first question po, addressed to Commander Carriera. Sir, the collisions are getting more and more frequent. Do you think these collisions are deliberate? And do you think it's now the new strategy of China to, destroy the ships of the Philippines so that there will be downtime and there's nothing to, or at least very limit the use of these boats in patrolling the West Philippines?
Well, I don't want to speculate about the strategy of China in countering our supply operation. But here's one thing is certain. For the past so many months, we have been already warning the Chinese Coast Guard that they need to abide with English regulations and also to adhere to all of these provisions to prevent such accidents from happening. And unfortunately, they have been still doing this during dangerous maneuver blocking operation, which resulted to this kind of accident. So I don't want to speculate that this is their strategy now to destroy our supply boats, as what they're probably mentioning. So again, we still don't know their specific strategy, whether it is really their plan, or they are just completely doing whatever they're doing since we started the supply operation.
My second question po is addressed to ADG Malaya. Sir, you mentioned kanina that the Philippines is going to talk to other countries to seek support from other countries that haven't, expressed outright support to the Philippines on the West Philippines issue. What are these countries for, and how would you assess the support of the international community to the Philippines on this issue?
I was just reacting to the comment on Justice Garfield. That's important for the Philippines to secure international support. And I replied that we agree. And it has been the position of the Department of Foreign Affairs and the Philippine government that we should continually work with the international community because we're fighting for essential values, basic values that every country is adhere to. In particular, the primacy of the rules-based international order and the primacy of international law in multilateral relations. So it is that context that I said question about how we gauge the success of the Philippines in securing support. We were so happy to immediately receive yesterday statements of support from so many countries, from Japan, from the United States, from Australia, from Germany, from the United Kingdom. So many countries expressed their support. So I think if we ask where is the Philippines now in securing the support of countries, yes, we have strong international support, and that is shown by the increasing partnerships we're having with many countries in the world. Japan, Australia, for example, has increased their partnerships with us to the level of strategic partnership, and we are getting more and more statements coming from other countries that they would like this matter resolved in a peaceful manner and that they support the Philippine position.
Thank you. Ms. from NHK Japan.
Thank you for taking my questions. I have simply questions that the Philippines added on some like advanced measurements on this condition. Why I ask this because I remember that last year's December there was almost like the same kind of the case incident happens, and afterwards that the Philippines has now like considering to add some like advanced measurements for the next level conditions. But somehow like today I see all the three teams that I didn't see like any like up to date. Same numbers of the vessels you provided and almost like the same times, almost in the same like tactics. So actually, is this the same? There's no any advanced measurements.
You were asking about any changes or advanced measures applied to this particular mission. Was it demand conduct further group rotation and group reprovisioning for our 9 iron detachments? It is a normal activity. There were no changes except probably for the present lines before, which just came from the tail. So it's just a normal activity, no minor changes.
I would add to that it's not just this feature that we are doing regular royal operations. All of our features in INFC or include regular royal operations, it's the same the whole time. It's a regular thing for the armed forces of the Philippines.
Ms.
Hello, sirs and madams. Thank you, Ms. Agency from Taiwan. I'm wondering because we read about the president said that the Philippines will push back if this sovereign right is ignored in the West Philippine Sea. And now we are seeing 4 military personnel got minor injuries during the incident. So I don't know if we are discussing some kind of measures or different strategies to further the next or following missions, so we can change this kind of escalating situation. Thank you.
Now, put into the perspective that the mission that was conducted was a regular rotation and resupply mission. So it's happening all over all of the features and the islands that within our territorial waters. So we are there, the Army of the Philippines will continue to resupply and conduct morale and welfare activities to all of our troops in the different features.
But I'm wondering because this time we got 4 personnel injured and there's a possibility that they might be more personnel got injured in the future. So I don't know if we have some prevent measures or some kind of strategy to prevent this kind of situation happening again.
These are operational matters. Of course, everything will be taken into consideration. And we will tweak our operations accordingly. These are items that we cannot be able to discuss. Thank you.
Ms. from NHK Philippines.
Good afternoon, Selena Monte from NHK. Just want to get a soundbite regarding the earlier statement that about this 4 personnel for interview. Would you say that this was so far the most severe incident that or the worst things that happened during those missions that have taken place?
Well, if you remember, there was this incident last year involving the Philippine Coast Guard wherein they served a military aviation was pointed at the Philippine Coast Guard vessel, which led to the temporary blindness of 2 of our personnel. And now it's this incident that happened yesterday where there's 4 minor injuries as a result of the glass windshield shattering. That's why there were minor injuries. So if the question is this the most serious? Yes, because now we have minor injuries that has happened to our troops. That is why at the beginning of this press conference, we prefaced our statement by saying that we would like peaceful relations with China. We are prepared to do what is necessary to resolve this territorial dispute. To resolve whatever maritime differences we have in the West Philippine Sea. But China must go beyond words alone. They must back up their words with concrete action. Because it is important for both countries to turn the page insofar as our routinary missions to Ayungin is concerned.
So do you expect the future missions to be like worse than to continue to worsen, could further escalate? And if ever, what preparations are the government?
Yeah, it's difficult to speculate on what will happen. That is why we wish that this incidents don't happen anymore, and that is why we are asking China, because they have repeatedly said that they want to settle this matter in a peaceful way. They want to steer a different course for Philippine-China relations, and it's critical that their actions match what they say. So we are hopeful that we will be able to resolve these differences in a peaceful manner.
Was there any discussion or recommendation from the NTF, from the task force, for the president, like to visit our troops in those areas that we think?
The National Task Force West Philippines has not yet convened in relation to this incident because the NSA is in Australia with the president.
Yes, yeah, Daily Manila Tribune.
So now China's aggressive actions are worsening. And so do you want any physical support, not verbal, not only verbal support, from your allies such as US, Australia, and Japan regarding storage?
Even without this incident, there are already discussions with other like-minded navies and like-minded nations, considering that there is a lot of capability to meet needs when it comes to the West Philippine Sea. So we will have to elaborate on what just recently transpired for the support of other countries to China.
I would like to add to that, we also have different MOUs with like-minded nations, and it's our hope that these MOUs escalate towards Vietnam.
Is it a good idea that while the Philippines is conducting storage coalition, your allies, like-minded countries, are conducting freedom of navigation operation or sailing or patrolling?
The border missions to Ayungin Shoal, just like any border mission conducted by the Philippines, is a Philippine affair. It's conducted by Philippine troops, utilizing Philippine vessels, supported by Philippine assets. But of course, there are always the possibility that we can accept support from other countries. But right now, the position of the Philippines is we conduct these resupply missions purely a Philippine affair. But we are open in the future to receiving whatever support the Philippines deems necessary. But I guess we will just have to cross the bridge when we get there.
At this point, will be given from two NASA agencies, so the Environment Agency and Borderland Philippines.
Good afternoon, especially for Ambassador Ambassador, na-detect na po ng Thailand yung diplomatic process na nangyari ng Pilipinas in connection doon sa water incident kahapon. We would like to know your take on that kasi ang sabi nila, tuloy pa rin nila yung pag-water sa mga program ng Pilipinas kung sa iyo. So, that na ito,
what you're saying is that they will continue water contamination that's really serious. But I have not read what you said. But I think importantly, we launch a protest and it's expected that they will also come up with their decision. But the important thing is for us to explain exactly what happened in RTZ and why we think it's significant for us. It's serious enough for us to tell China that these cease and desist actions that are violating the international law. That would restart only property, not only vessels, but also the possibility of interest in personnel.
Follow-up question. Today, ano ba yung diplomatic process na inaari ng Pilipinas sa China? And there are any other alternative remedies na di pa tulong sa article na minahaw ng Pilipinas na mapapagkaan sa water. Thank you.
Okay, in terms of figures, as of the end of February, there were about 9 for the year 2024 protests that have actually been issued. So if you count the protests also in terms of somebody that is 10. So in terms of under the president, it's 142 in total since he issued. Now, yes, protest comes in different forms. Maraming klaseng protesta. Protesta in terms of one, pwede mo tawagan na sabihin na hindi tama yung ginagawa mo. Pangalawa, pwede mo sabihin na magsulat ka based on the president and not verbal. You can also actually someone who is like a public undertaking. So maraming possibility in terms of protest. That's one kind of diplomatic action. Protest is one kind of diplomatic action. But it's not the only diplomatic action that's undertaken by the Philippines. And you can notice we're actually trying to deepen our relations with like-minded countries. We're also trying to broaden, not only expand in terms of like-minded countries, but deepen with those who are already our friends. That's second. The third is in terms of the regional order. We've actually continued to work with ASEAN so that there will be a little So maraming diplomatic action na nangyari. And for example, what happened in terms of the visit in Australia, the president had witnessed the signing of 3 very important agreements. That's another diplomatic action where we are actually trying to go beyond protest. We're trying to see how we can actually deepen partnerships with other countries. And here, in response to your question, many times when we actually engage with other countries, it's not because we're pointing a finger at another country. It's because there are certain needs that the country needs, and that we're trying to see how other countries can actually support us in the process.
Next, we have Borderland Philippines.
Hello, Borderland. My name po from Borderland Philippines. Kaya ko may clarifications na po ako about po doon sa ano po yung mga grounds natin para masabi natin dapat hindi pa dapat umaksyon yung Philippine Navy. Kapag may mga nagpapasok incident sa Western Pacific, kaya po ngayon, may dapat po mga nasaktan. Yun po sa ating issue.
I mentioned earlier the rules engagement. These were the actions of our operating groups. Before when we escalate, it's on the commander on the ground. That's why we have the commander presscon. Ensure that things will be safely and controlled. But let's assure that the Philippine Navy and the armed forces are prepared to save life and property, subject to the bounds of the rules of engagement and international law.
Sir, to be specific po, ano po ba talaga yung ating pamantayan para malaman kung kailan talaga dapat tayo pumasok doon? Kasi may mga nasasaktan na po sa ginagawa ko na siya.
Yes, yun naman ay napapanood sa road engagement. And when to escalate or de-escalate. And the goal is letting the government commander.
Last question na po on my part.
Now, we will do one question. Thank you, ma'am. And at this moment, sir, we are now going to close our party.
Thank you. Thanks, sir. Actually, my question is to Pamela Minina. What kind of injuries were sustained by the personnel? Because they were described as minor. What exactly are they? And to ADG Malay, you mentioned that consultations are ongoing on your MDB. Are these consultations triggered by what happened yesterday? Or are these part of ongoing consultations between the group?
Please have the minor cuts. Minor cuts. Minor cuts.
Mas I'd like to answer your question, I cannot answer the question due to national security concerns. Suffice it to say that these matters are very sensitive, therefore we would rather not make comment at this time.
Just a quick comment. Master has this response from going the ASEAN, the Australian special summit came up with a statement. The statement read that we encourage all countries to avoid any unilateral actions that can be peace, security, and stability in the region, particularly in the South side. During the delegates in the president made interventions that raised the incident that happened in Ayungin Shoal. How does the Philippines view this kind of statement being incorporated in the statement following the summit?
I don't have to read out yet because suffice it to say, and that's when we're safe to assume that the South China Sea is exactly something that will be raised. And in terms of the discussion, whether it's incidents or actually discussed,
Last one question, sir, from AFP News.
Yesterday we summoned the deputy chief commission, the Chinese embassy. I was wondering why we did not summon the ambassador. Is there any symbolism to be read in there? Do we still recognize him, the ambassador? Have we sent him home? That's why he was there yesterday.
I don't know the whereabouts of the ambassador. I think we should check the embassy relative to the whereabouts of the securities. I think the one question is not the deputy chief of mission was he was actually first responsible for him, was the important thing is I believe that we protested and that it was received and that it was also echoed in our post engagement. So that I think is important. We didn't let it go, we didn't wait. The incident happened in March 5 and we acted on it. I think that's the way to go. I have nothing to check that.
I think this is a question that is in everybody's mind. Just to be clear with China, just to be clear with the forces of the AFP and all the actors that are involved in the South China Sea. In this generally tell us what is the threshold, what is the red line that China cannot cross so that you would, if they cross it, you would elevate your actions to a higher level of response. So China will be clearly what would trigger you, what would trigger the Philippines to take a stronger action diplomatically.
Ayungin Shoal and Bawal Masingo have been declared as red lines. There will be no building or reclamation on Bawal Masingo. There will be no moving of LS 57 from Ayungin Shoal. These have been declared by the previous administration. The police are red lines for the Philippines with armed forces, relative to the Philippine government. On escalation of the ground, the rules of engagement reverts the actions when to save something to save life and property, and limit to the ground commander when to use appropriate police engagement.
Quickly related to that, Governor President. If Philippine forces somehow have to defend themselves and use military action in an unexpected emergency situation, how high is the level of approval and clearance? That will it go up to the president, to the Western commander, or to the general brother? Can you give us an idea?
In the framing of the rules of engagement, we have consulted guidance of the president and the government authorities. The ROE does not infringe upon the right to self-defense or the right to protect life and property.
Thank you, everyone. Press conference, we have three resource